What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for a brand new season of Rivals and Adversaries. That's right, guys. Joe and I are back. We had so much fun with season number 1. We decided we had to do it again, so we've gone ahead and selected new model kits. We're going to go ahead and jump into a brand new season and really just kind of crank these out and have some fun with some World War II aircraft that should be a lot easier to build than what we did in season number 1. So let's go ahead and check it out here. I'm going to be building first off the F4U-1 or 2 Birdcage Corsair. This is by Tamiya in 1/48 scale, and I am super excited to go ahead and dive in and get this thing onto the bench. Now, I will be honest, I've actually already built this kit. I built this kit back about 15 years ago, before I really kind of knew anything about post-shade or pre-shade. I was just kind of getting back into the hobby, so this is going to be kind of a new take on an older kit. And this kit is actually a bit on the older side. I think Tamiya put this out in 1996, but it's actually still a beautiful model, highly praised as being a really good and fair representation of the early Birdcage Corsairs. And these are actually one of my favorite types of Corsairs. I just love that really thick-edged, hard-lined canopy that's just so very different from the later 1As all the way up to the F4U-7. So I'm really excited to go ahead and jump in. Let's go ahead and give you a real quick look at some of the plastic. We won't spend too much time on this because, well, this kit has been around, like I said, since 1996. Chances are you guys have already seen it, maybe you've even built it. But we're going to go ahead and just take a quick look at the plastics and talk a bit about the project. And as you can see, these are gorgeous looking molds. We've got fine recessed panel lines. We've got some great fabric detail for the rudder and the ailerons. We are looking really sharp here with this. Wonderful amounts of detail as well. As you can see, the cockpit sidewalls have dials and switches and gauges. Our seat looks really nice as well. Could use some seat belts though, but looking pretty sharp. The instrument panel is awesome. I don't know how accurate this is for a -2, but for a -1, I think it's actually pretty close. We've got, of course, structural detailing, wires, gauges built in. Inside of the cockpit, we of course have more structural details. We have boxes, gauges, and different levers and switches. We could add some wires into this, and this cockpit will look great. And that level of detail even extends back to the tail wheel itself. We've got structural detailing there as well, and it looks fantastic. So can't wait to see how this kind of goes together. Now, this is a Birdcage Corsair, so we have the old school versions of their canopies. We've got the ones with a little bit of a bubble there. We've got a nice windscreen as well, and we also have those little windows that actually hang out right behind the canopy. Those are actually something you saw on the early Birdcage versions, and the 1As went ahead and did away with those. So there's something you only see on the very early versions of Corsairs. We're also given a very nicely detailed pilot as well as ordnance. We have a single bomb as well as a drop tank. I don't know if the -1s really carried a lot of that, but we are given the bomb rack in case we want to go ahead and do that. And for the -2 fans, we also have the radome that actually hangs off the front of the leading edge of the wings. It's not necessarily the right shape, but it's pretty close. And then since this is a -1, we have the inserts for those rear windows right behind the canopy. So looking pretty good. That same level of detail extends itself up into the front wheelbase. As you can see, we've got some wheel bay doors. We've got some great structural detailing here in the wheelbase. Now I can actually add some wires in there, which will really spruce this up. So I think I'll go ahead and deal with that. Now the early Corsairs had fabric panels in the wings. As you can see, we have these nicely rendered for both the metal sections and the fabric sections on the upper portion of the wing as well. So those will paint up nicely. And we have all the flaps that are actually designed to be posed down. I don't know if I'll do that. I might want to go ahead and close up this step right here and then actually raise all the flaps, but I'm not really 100% sure just yet. I got to think about it a bit. And of course, we have that elusive lower window that we only saw on the very early Corsairs for the pilot's vision. The decals look great. They're a little bit older, and I know Tamiya decals don't always like to cooperate. I don't really see any problems with them. We have our stencils, we have our unit markings and our aircraft numbers, and then of course we have our stars and bars, and we have our original star rondels. So depending on which version I do, we have some options. Now the instruction manual is like any other Tamiya manual I've ever seen. We have some very nicely detailed part-by-part breakdowns. We start off in the cockpit, moving all the way through to the engine, to the wings, up into the fuselage. We get everything kind of tucked together. We've got our landing gear bays. Of course, we have different fidgety parts, have our different ordnance that we could use, but probably not going to use those. We have our different canopies depending on which version of Birdcage Corsair we build. Now we can actually have the wings in the folded position or in the deployed position. I'm more than likely going to go ahead and deploy these wings, but we do have the support braces for the folded versions, so that's kind of nice to have. It is tempting. And the last thing, of course, we have our different schemes. We're given 3 different versions of Corsairs that we can go ahead and paint. We've got 2 Marine squadrons, 1 Night Fighter -2 aircraft, and we have a tricolored Navy aircraft from the USS Bunker Hill. Now I actually built this Marine aircraft right here, this White 20, and I was really kind of leaning towards building up the Night Fighter -2 version. But there's a couple of issues with that, and I'm not really sure which one I want to do. So I am absolutely confused as to which version I want to build. They all look cool. They all have very interesting paint schemes, and the majority of these are going to be weathered. And usually the Marine aircraft will be weathered a lot more than the naval aircraft. So depending on which one I do, I have to go ahead and really kind of crank up that weathering to like 11, because these things got bleached, chipped, aren't known for having very durable paint. It's going to show a lot of wear and tear for sure. So I got to make sure I can get in there and see what I can do, which is a little bit difficult for me because I don't really weather aircraft all that much. It's going to be a challenge for sure. So an absolutely beautiful looking model. I can't wait to jump in there. I do have to figure out which version I want to go ahead and paint, but I think once we figure that out, we'll be able to jump in, and I think we should be able to get a really nice looking Corsair out of this. Which of course brings us to one of my favorite segments, references. This is actually one of the books I have here in my collection, Corsair Aces of World War II. It is a great book, very fun read, has a lot of the early Corsairs, of course, as you see the -1s. It has some great pictures that we can use for reference and inspiration. We've got a lot of grime and dirt. We can see a little bit here and there of how the weathering actually affected the paint. This is going to be a great book to have. Not only that, but you can come back and you can read about some of the harrowing adventures that these pilots had fighting the Japanese. Not necessarily geared towards modelers as much as some of the other books I've got, but I think still a great read, highly recommended. Also, we have this book right here. This is the F4U Corsair in Action by Squadron Signal. And I really like the Squadron Signal books. They're not necessarily as in-depth as other books, but they do pack quite a bit of information, and they have awesome pictures. And that's, of course, what I want these references for. You can go in and read about all the different Corsair models. You can see pictures, references, talk a little bit about each of the different designs and marks. As you can see here, we even have a picture of one of the aircraft that's actually represented in the Tamiya kit. This one right here with this cool eagle on the front nose. I think it's going to be a really fun read. Like I said, super simple. The only problem I see with the book is it only has like a paragraph on the -2. And I know the -2 was a very limited run aircraft. There wasn't a lot of them out there, but they did actually set the trend for night fighting there in the Pacific. So it'd be kind of nice to have a bit more information. But other than that, we've got a lot of really awesome pictures, a little bit of information, and I think it's a really fun book to read. But that's of course not all the books I have. I have a ton of books that I've downloaded in ebook form, and I've got them here on my phone, and that's probably what I'm going to be pulling most of my references from. So with the ebooks on my phone and the hard copy references, we should be able to get enough information to hopefully build a very fun Corsair. But that is it, guys. Like I said, I just wanted to give you a real quick introduction to Season 2 of Rivals and Adversaries. I'm going to go ahead and build up the F4U-1 Corsair, while Joe is going to go ahead and tackle this right here, the A6M3 Zero Type 32 by Eduard. Now the Eduard kit, of course, is a lot newer than this Corsair, but once we go ahead and finish off these kits, we're going to flip them. He's going to build the Corsair, and I'm going to go after the Eduard A6M3. So that's going to be interesting. We can actually directly compare how each kit builds, and of course share notes on the building process, which is one of the high points here of this build series. I know Joe's itching to get going. I am still a little hesitant on exactly what I want to do to build the Corsair. I have no idea what markings I want to use or which version I'm going to go ahead and build yet, but I'm going to go ahead and start working on that over the next week, and hopefully next episode we'll be back. We can start working on this awesome model. So until our next episode, guys, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. Make sure to go check out Joe's video. I know he's going to be posting something on the A6M3, and we'll see you back here on episode number 2 for Rivals and Adversaries Season 2 and the Birdcage Corsair. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.